Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Glad you're able to join us tonight. If you're new to the channel, thank you for being here. And as you participate in chat, always be respectful of families, mods, and each other. We'll have a presentation, and during that presentation, if you have any questions related to the show tonight, put them in chat. Mrs. Steve here, I'll be tagging them, and we'll get to all those questions at the end. We want to thank everyone, all our mods and everybody for being here tonight. And we're going to be discussing, of course, this day that has been on the horizon for so long and has continuously been postponed and moved forward. And during the connections of Delphi and with the CSAM connections that came out of the Delphi homicides, which led to this large CSAM ring, which Kegan Kline ultimately has finally been sentenced for. And we're going to be talking about not only his sentencing, but what does that mean about the connection with Delphi, and where will it go from this point on? And right now, everybody's celebrating with the sentence that he has currently been sentenced to. And what does that mean? And I don't know if celebration is the right word, and it's probably the wrong word, but that it's far more than what some people expected. It's actually the sentence that he was given today is more than what I expected. And so I'm glad that it's more than what I expected, because I figured it'd just be somewhere around 10 years or so. And which I'm very grateful for the fact that we are talking about an extremely dangerous individual. There's no other way than to look at anyone that does what Keegan Kline did and promoted and exposed these innocent children to, not only the ones of connections with Delphi, but across the world and country, and the people that he fed their fantasies, and the children that's been affected across this world. And these animals, and I shouldn't even insult an animal by putting Keegan in that same classification, but because he's pure evil. And there's not enough time on earth for him to serve that he would ever become something that wouldn't be a danger to our children. But anyway, we're going to get into our presentation now. And oh, Mrs. Steve's coffee cup has been pushed across the table. So now she's happy.
Sorry.
All right. You want to pull up the presentation there?
As soon as I do that, so I don't gag.
Absolutely. Originally, when some of these slides are from the original presentations on it, and the charges have changed a little bit, went from 30 to 25, and charges, and but this is what, when he was arrested originally, his age, and where he lived in Purdue, which is 36 miles from Delphi, and originally how he came into the picture connected with the Delphi investigation. And we didn't know this for a long time of why they were looking at him. And during these parallel investigations of Logan, the Klines, and of course, the code case or the Delphi, over the many years it took until they identified an offender, Richard Allen. And we didn't know exactly all the connections and what did it mean and what does it mean now. And there's a lot of unexplained answers and questions, or unexplained questions that we don't know the answer for, and that what those answers mean is extremely important if we can find out some of the things. And like I said, I've been in the business for a long time, and some of the things that this individual, Keegan Kline, did, um, I I grasp at trying to figure out an answer that would, uh, for whatever question that you address, especially that DNA search. And but we'll discuss more of that as later in the show when we get to the connections and what does it mean as far as where this case will go forward and are charges possibly coming, or is it just a wash and no connection. But anyway, of course, from his CSAM and what he did, creating the Anthony shots profile that brought him into the limelight or the focus of law enforcement. And we absolutely have to give credit where credit is due as far as the Delphi investigation that led to such a creature such as Kegan Kline. And the children that lives have been impacted, and the children that without this investigation would have suffered far greater damage than what they've already suffered. And there have been far more victims over the years if law enforcement hadn't interceded and identified this individual. Just this single individual, which led to multiple others. And for how long will that continue onward? It's going to be, um, uh, there's probably so many links and tentacles, as Doug Carter would say, that sprung out of this case across Indiana, across the United States, and across the world. For the fact that Carter does mention that they received tips from all over the world, from Europe and others, and that absolutely would have, some of that would have been regarding this individual and some of the platforms that he used, and of how he satisfied his needs and the needs of other sick individuals just like him. But he was arrested in August 2020. We have to make sure that we're aware of that date because the judge makes reference to not only when he was arrested, but when law enforcement first identified him. And at that point, when that statement was made, everyone pretty well could take a step back and say, "Uh-oh, this isn't going to go anywhere near what or along the path that Keegan thought it was going to go," and deservingly so. That he should not rest in comfort, knowing what he's going to be facing for many, many years. But this is the statement I was talking about that the judge says that he found the images that Keegan Kline is accused of receiving and disseminating deeply disturbing. And despite the police raiding his home in 2017, the judge says that Kline made no significant steps to change his uh, manner or regrets in this time before he was arrested. And we have to look at that in 3 years, from 2017 to 2020, during that time period, once law enforcement had caught him with his hand in the cookie jar of going out there, obtaining those images and disseminating those images, that he never changed any of his mannerisms, characteristics of what he was doing, and proceeded and continued along that path of victimizing these children. And so we always have to keep that in mind. Should we ever feel sorry for this individual? No, not in my book. I will not. But each of us have to make those independent decisions on their own. Mrs. Steve is not going to. How sorry do you feel for him?
0.
0. Somehow I figured that.
Yeah. No.
But during the transcripts and during the interviews, the significance of what law enforcement found out from the Delphi investigation, and that they had started one of the largest CSAM investigations ever undertaken in the state of Indiana, and which is huge. in the world of crime of what came out of this case. And like I said, we'll get in more of how and what does that mean as far as his involvement with the Delphi case. But just from this one statement and from what the judge said and what the sentence was, and we won't get that sentencing out of the way, and we'll start looking at that. But after the investigation started, after the discovery of Libby and Abby, and they did a search of Kegan Kline's Peru, Indiana home on February 25th in 2017, that originally we had 30 counts, and of course it went down to, I think it was 25, if my memory serves. There's so many numbers in my head, and I've been calculating, and I want to thank everyone that's been sending me those numbers and the percentages and what that all means. And I haven't looked at each individual charge with the total times and everything. So I will be doing some guesstimation, although I'm sure that there's going to be some exact numbers put out there in the next few days. There's a calculator online that you can go and use, but due to the long court date, and I thought that when he first got there this morning that we wouldn't even have an idea by this time. I figured it'd be sometime by next week, but everyone stepped up to the plate and got it to the point now that we know, at least with his involvement with CSAM, exactly where he's going and for an extended period of time. But you got 40 years and plus 3 years of probation and for the 25 convictions. And I think there's different classifications for about half of those crimes were 4 and 5 classifications. And then we had or levels 4 and 5 and then level 6. And there's different times spent for each of those crimes or the levels of crime. For all those level 6 crimes, you basically serve a day for a day. And for the level 4 and 5 crimes, from the information I received, and I want to thank the people that sent that to me, 75%. And so looking at the minimum amount of time that he would serve, which is worst case for us, but best case for him, that even if it was a day for a day, well, 40-year sentence, he's got at least 20 years. But now when you bring in the averages of the other offenses that are the 75%, you can pretty well, between the two of them, look somewhere around 60-something%. So somewhere around 25 to 30 years, this evil is going to be off the streets. But even with that evil being off the streets, that when we add his current age, which is pretty close to around 30, and you even put it at that he did serve up to 30 more years, that he didn't earn or he loses some of his credit, that at the most we're probably looking somewhere around that he'll be in his late 50s to 60 years of age.
Not old enough.
Not old enough. He's still, how often do we see these individuals with such evil and such a history that are these 50-something-year-old men, 60-something-year-old men? And like I said, there's not enough time for this individual to ever get to the point that he wouldn't be a threat to a child. Now, this is my opinion. You know, each of y'all can have your own opinion and look at this, but people that have this, that they look at these children as these objects of desire, that there's no changing them. And forever, even from the moment that while he's still out and in prison, his fantasy world is still driven by this. He's driven by those memories. He's not going to change that. And he watches TV or whatever programs or whatever articles or whatever he gets to see, that's still going to feed his fantasy. He's never going to change.
So no rehabbing in prison?
No rehabbing in prison. Now he may have become the interests of some of the individuals in prison, and rightly so. And I hope he enjoys those intimate moments. Um, but he is. There's just not an answer in our court system and in our Constitution of how we handle this type of individual. Other countries have ways that some of those um, pretty well handle them. And I can't argue with them. Each country has a right, sovereign country has a right to do as they see when it comes to protecting their children. And I honestly do not think that we protect our children enough. And I think it should absolutely always be on the table, the ultimate penalty. Not as, because there's always been an argument about the ultimate penalties, and that it's not a deterrent. It's not, but it stops it. That once that is carried out, it stops it. But so somewhere's, like I said, he's going to serve probably somewhere between 25 and 30 years. And I'm just guesstimating. I haven't looked at all of those times, but just the laws of averages would put it somewhere around that. And so now we're going to look at what does this Senate mean for the Delphi connection. In my opinion, it doesn't bring, and it doesn't show that Keegan Kline has some type of involvement or knowledge that he shared, for the fact that they pretty well gave him an extremely stiff sentence. So is it, in my opinion, it looks like more likely that Richard Allen is a lone wolf now, for the fact that we had sentencing today. We had a probationary officer that went in there and testified about what type of individual he was, which was of the lower level threat because he didn't have physical contact. I think if there was any hint of him having interactions with the children of Libby and Abby or other children, that we would not have had that probationary officer make those comments. I think that it wouldn't be that he is of a low risk or the lower tier threat to children. I don't think that testimony would have been brought in and stated in the way it was stated. And for that reason, and for that reason alone, right now is how come I think that he's not going to have any ties to Delphi, regardless of everything that indicates the searches, the DNA search, which means is absolutely unbelievable on me. And realizing once I saw the way that the testimony by the probationary officer came out, I was thinking about that. Well, how would that apply to an individual and that didn't have any connection with the Delphi homicides? What could he have done with other victims? And I think that we're going to find out at some point, possibly in the future, in another state, otherwise, that DNA search is going to be of what other acts he may have committed at other times with other children. And that's where the DNA, that's the only thing that makes sense, because I've racked my brains that if he's not talking about the DNA profile for Libby and Abby, he's talking about DNA profile on someone. And that has to be another victim, probably during that time period of what occurred and what fears did he have, and was it just one of those coincidences? But that's just speculation on my part. But that's the only sense that I can make of why he might possibly be searching for that. And I know there's going to be a lot of people out there still speculating that the hammer's going to drop with charges, and with Delphi. I may be wrong, but I don't think that's going to occur from this case. I think it's done as far as Kegan Kline's involvement with it. And so we'll just have to look at and what does that mean for the future of Kegan Kline. I hope the other, states come in. There's other victims that step forward, and that will bring justice for all these other victims. I hate that, the situation and all these victims for all these children. All you can do is feel for them because they're so vulnerable, and some of the things that Keegan getting up there, and trying to put that that it's not all him, and it just doesn't make sense, and there's no answer for what he did to these kids, and so we'll just have to see where it goes from that. But anyway, do we have any questions?
You do, and I hope I have not overlooked them. Chat has been quite busy.
Well, thank everybody for being in chat, and thank everyone being respectful, and absolutely thank our mods.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. So see, I do one thing, and then I have 4 somethings pop up. So,
but yeah, I was quite surprised when there wasn't any when the census came out, because I knew that the higher the years served, the less likely he was going to be involved with the Delphi connection. But when I heard that probation officer say that, I thought, okay, she wouldn't be saying that without a reason.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, blue light.
Okay, well, Rottweilers, you guys are adorable. You have a beautiful couple dynamic. Thank you for your hard work. Awesome presentation. And that's Meg from Australia. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Australia. Oh, sounds like a nice boat ride.
Yeah, I don't fly. If I get to Australia, it'll be by boat.
Okay, so we're going to start with Molly at True Crime Web. Any thoughts on Doug Carter attending all day, but not in uniform? Not sure where he was seated. He didn't testify. Any thoughts?
I didn't get to see, or no one got to see. Everybody was living on by text and whatever representation was coming from some certain people that were within the courtroom. But him not testifying, they had the officers involved, and throughout all the interviews and the news briefings that Carter performed over the years related to Delphi, and coming in and seeing this, that out of the multi-agency task force, which the ISP was a major part of, that a large part of this was handled through his department and will be handled in the future as it moves forward, because there's still a lot of answers to be found out there, because Carter has absolutely, I'm sure, a lot more questions of what involvement he has with other victims throughout the state of Indiana and surrounding areas. But as he's always stated, he's just a spokesperson. He's the head of the agency. He's not the one out there, boots on the ground, doing the investigation. And so anything that he had knowledge of would have come from those that had firsthand knowledge. So there's nothing, unless he had went out and personally interviewed a victim or found evidence personally, there was nothing he could bring to the table that wouldn't have been hearsay. And so it doesn't surprise me that he didn't testify.
Okay, and from Yana, hi, Steve. In your experience, are these people in organized crime that makes it impossible to escape from what they are doing? I probably watch too many crime shows. Thank you.
Well, organized crime and certain organized crime is a little bit different than what the CSAM is. Now, there is CSAM organized also in a absolutely some fashion. Absolutely. I mean, you have like what Keegan was doing, exploiting, creating, having drop boxes, and doing a business through gathering those images and disseminating them across the country to people that either through cash apps or otherwise bought the materials from him. Um, but it's not so much the criminal act; it's what their psychological and um, drive through their fantasies towards these children that uh, they can't escape from. Um, and they don't want to escape from it. Absolutely, their fantasy world and how they can look at a child in that manner that would excite them emotionally and otherwise is more is so much more dangerous and horrible than some of the organized crimes and bank robbers and drug cartels, because the victims um, of those of with drugs and things is one type of victim, but these innocent children have no say in the matter. They have no way of protecting themselves mentally or through the knowledge of how to handle. And if they don't share with one of their parents or an adult of what's going on, and you have these predators that groom them and then expose them and create such a danger to them constantly that it's a little bit different types of crimes, and they're driven by those desires and those fantasies, and and they can't escape from it, and never will escape from it, and how do you stop them? You don't. They're going to do it until you put them behind bars where they have no accessibility to these children.
Frank Meister's in the house and L.A. Wilkes is in the house.
Hello, L.A. Hello, Frank. Good to see y'all. Glad you're here.
All right, let me just catch up. It just takes a second. All right. And I'm not sure what this is, but Donna wants to know who won the hash browns.
Oh, we're going to have to look back at that right now. I'm going to have to get whoever that was closest to, but not over. And it's going to be somewhere around those. If you were 30 plus, I'm pretty sure
What
you're
is
out of the
that?
picture.
What are you doing?
Last night, we had people estimating and guesstimating what the sentence would be.
I got you.
And
Oh,
and
and you
so
gave them hash browns?
yeah, uh, it's the morning watch people. I'm innocent. I'm innocent of it.
Okay. All right.
I
Thanks, Donna.
Waffle
Didn't know
House.
about that.
Waffle House never crossed my
Yeah.
list. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But no, I'll have to look at that. And then for the people that were in there, whenever I find that, we'll find who was closest without. And we may have multiple winners because I think there was several that were in that 20 to 25 year period. And like I said, right now, guesstimating that's probably where it's going to be at.
All right. And Carol says, can he appeal the severity of his sentence?
Oh, I'm sure there's an appeal process in Indiana. Will he? I don't know, and probably so, but um, I don't think that it's going to go anywhere.
Frank Meister just gave us something on that. Hold on. Uh, True Crime Talk with Frank Meister. Indiana went to federal guidelines. 85% of sentence to be served.
Okay, and that may be. I haven't looked at that, and
Yeah.
if so, that's going to
Okay.
raise the
You'll be older when he gets out.
well, that plus it changes the winners of the hash browns.
Oh,
I'll have
okay.
to look into that. Some of the numbers came in that when you look at the state charges.
That should be Keegan, not Anthony.
Oh, Anthony shots when
Oops.
when I was typing that, the Anthony Shots, Kegan Kline collapsed together.
And it all rolls in the same
Yeah.
bucket. Okay. All right, let's see here. And the next one from Juicy B. Why do people that commit crimes against children and women get sentences reserved for white collar crime? White collar crime.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is strange that the way that these sentences occur and why it is. And I don't know the answer to that. The laws are set and sentences are set and judges apply them. And it does seem that those that are most vulnerable and need the protection the most get it the least. And it's a sad situation. And I have no answer for that. Great question, but I don't know why.
Okay, so hold on one second.
Y'all have to pardon me whenever I'm writing these things. Sometimes I just collapse different things together. I'm probably
the brain works faster than his fingers. Let me just tell y'all that.
Yeah,
always.
I misspelled his home in 2017 in that one.
See? All right, and Joey, why have a trial? As I thought he changed his plea to not guilty.
He did, but then he pled out that changed it back to guilty. So that's how come we don't have a trial. And he stood there and took it. And we'll have to see if there's anything he can do. I don't think that when he enters into this plea that he has any opportunities to appeal. I don't know with Indiana. In Georgia, I think that once you go into that process of it, that you're going to be part of a plea deal, whatever comes. And but if you were part of a trial, there is an appeal process. But I don't know if there's any appeal process for those in his situation.
Okay. I'm hoping I'm not missing anything. All right. And, there we go. From Wanda, if he is found to have something probably to do with RH in the Libby and Abby case, or RA, will he or can he get more charges?
If there's evidence that comes up at some point, absolutely. But from what, and like I said, I'm basing everything that I heard on that one part of where that probation officer, and I don't know if Indiana does the same thing that happens here in Georgia, that this probationary officer that we have whenever you're in court and someone's being sentenced for, and that part of their sentence is going to be probation, that those officers go in and do a pre-sentencing investigation of that individual. They talk to them, they check with all the experts and understand and build a profile of this individual, and would he be what type of probationary risk would he be? And at least that's the way it works in Georgia. And I don't know if that's the way it works in Indiana. But if it does work in that same fashion, when those officers give their report to the judge of what will happen after a sentence is served and what is the risk factor of this individual being a repeat offender, and judges, they're educated individuals. They realize that these sick minds are always going to be a threat. And I think that played a huge part in this sentence. But by that probationary officer putting him in that low-level classification is a strong indicator to me that he didn't have anything to do with Richard Allen or Delphi.
Okay. And Molly, at True Crime Web, it was noted by a CSI computer phone testimony that TK had no accounts on the device that KK's charges came from, which was the iPhone.
And that brings up that some of the information that was in the transcripts of that with the um, during some of the questioning and stuff that the law enforcement was questioning and saying, we know that there are at least two people on devices that morning coming in from two different devices at the same time. And was that just Keegan trying to change his manner of writings and portraying himself as two different individuals to create um, chat and chatter within his messaging and making it seem like it was going to be more of a multi-person communications, or was there actually someone else? Along, a lot of people have always thought that it would be it would be TK, um, and um, from some of this testimony, it appears that's not going to be the case. So either it has to be there's another unidentified individual out there, or it's this Keegan playing two roles. And is he smart enough to do that? And does he have the abilities to do that? I don't know. He's absolute liar from day one, and his life is built around those lies. And I doubt that he even realizes or knows what reality is.
All right. And from Joey, I wonder if he pled guilty to it all because they told him if he did not, they would charge him in the Delphi
Homicide.
homicides.
No, I don't think so because there's certain things that are not allowed um, to force a confession, and that would be one of them. That um, you're going to have to confess with this. If you don't, we're going to charge you with that. And there are laws, and attorneys wouldn't allow that. And at least that's here in Georgia. Now, Indiana, like I said, once again, but I don't think even with the federal guidelines and things that that would be allowed. Um,
Okay. And Molly, was Liggett at the sentencing anyone else from ISP or Delphi besides DC on the scene?
That would be interesting. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of creators that were there that will give us a list of individuals in there, and that'll be coming out in the coming days. And I have no idea, but it will be extremely interesting um, what investigators were there from Delphi or any other related crimes.
CJK, were the same guys there from other law enforcement entities that were there last time?
Uh, yeah, like I said, I don't know, but I'm sure there's going to be a full list of that of people that were spotted there. And but if by chance there was, and if by chance there weren't, that's going to tell a lot of information about where this case is going and what it means. If there was none of the investigators there, then that were related to the Delphi investigations, or at least a task force of representation of everyone that was linked to it, because you will have some linkage and some investigators that have those connections. But if there's not a task force of them, it doesn't look well that the or at the case that they're going to be linked.
And D. Mead, Mr. Steve, is it possible he can get out early? I hope not.
I'm with you. He agreed to a plea deal. He entered a plea of guilty. He's accepted, um, and we'll have to see what the attorneys do. But uh, it appears that, like I said, the quick numbers are somewhere around 25. And if you go with the 85% of 40, you know, you're, what is that? You're 4, 10, 6 years off of 40, 34 years. That, and I hope 34 years, because that will put him into his 60s. But he's still, even at 85% time served, is going to be absolutely, even in his 60s, he's still a danger. there's not enough time for this individual to serve. But we'll just have to see. And I hope he's not able to, I hope he serves every second of 34 years, if what Frank says of the 85% federal rule. And I don't know if that's on all the charges or if on just some of the charges on that federal rule. That's the first I'd heard of it. Everyone else that sent me stuff was sending me the 50% and the 75%. I hadn't seen the 85% of 40 yet.
All right. If you got questions, you got to put me a question mark in there. That's what I'm searching for. No question mark, no star. I can't keep up. Okay. And let's see here. From Jennifer Rochelle. So where are the tentacles, Steve?
That's what I'm saying. It appears that that we're not going to have anything other than the connection of he contacted them the day of, made some statements, looked up that DNA. It doesn't appear that, in my opinion, that the tentacles are going. Now, the tentacles from his case, from just the CSAM, there are vast. Everyone that would have used that through the internet and shared those images of where he got them from and who he shared them with. From the CSAM tentacles, I think there was a lot of people that were being arrested around the country. There are probably some of those tentacles, and I think there'll be more. Those individuals aren't going to be changed, and they're going to be on the radar of law enforcement forever, because our internet and our computer systems and our AI doesn't have a memory. It's not like I can forget things.
Really?
Yes.
No.
It's shocking. But the internet doesn't forget.
Okay. And Molly, she gave you your answer. He can't appeal the convictions, but he can appeal the length of his sentence.
And that's probably true. And I'll have to take your word for that because, like I said, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Indiana, and that's probably true though.
All right.
Makes sense. It would be.
And then Molly says, according to local TV reporter, he can appeal the length of his sentence only, and his lawyer said they would do that.
Okay. I hope that through that process that it stays exactly where it was. But even with that 40-year sentence, even if he had to serve every day of his, he's still in his 60s when he gets out, and that's not long enough.
All right. And from Monique, has KK's father, TK, ever been charged in the past?
There was reports of his interactions and some injuries and some behavior that was of criminal status. What those charges were and were they pressed and what was the final adjudication of those charges, I have no idea.
Okay. And from Josh, would deleting apps off a device after you've been served a search warrant ever be considered tampering with evidence or obstruction of justice?
You would think. You would think anything and everything that he did from that moment and what part of this plea deal and what other charges and what are the statute of limitation of other charges coming in, and could that occur? I believe so. But yes, I think that once you're served a search warrant and you're supposed to do certain things, like as you say, tampering with evidence. And how did law enforcement miss that? I mean, did they just not do searches of his digital footprint? And were they not aware of that other phone, which is amazing to me because by the time that you do a financial investigation of an individual and you go through their banking and you do all of this and you go through their phone and everyone that could send him a bill, and because if you have a phone, then of course you have accounts, and all of those can be obtained through the court system. And how would they have missed that phone? Is quite surprising. But I agree with you. He should be, and will he ever be? Uh, we'll have to see.
Okay. And from Ann, Mr. Steve, any idea how quick KK is going to get hauled out of that local jail he's gotten so comfortable in and off to real prison, Gin Pop?
Um, I've I don't know how they do it there, but I saw it that generally just as soon as transportation can be arranged, we had were from that moment on, certain high profiles were sent into that the marshals would come and get them and take them if they were serving federal time. And if it was state time, you'd have the state bus come in and get them just as soon as they could be so that they'd be taken. And there's, you know, because the sheriff, he's sentenced now. He's, serving state time in a county facility. And they don't want him there, and they want him out of there just as soon as possible. So uh, from this moment on, he's serving state time.
Moon Dancer, Mr. Steve, do you think he will survive prison?
Looking at him, and he's not someone that you would expect that could serve a 20-year sentence, even if it was just 20 years. It doesn't, with the level of activity that he would be um, have access to, and whatever his abilities to get back in good health to survive 20 to 30 something years, um, it doesn't look good for him. I'm not a doctor or anything, but it I would be surprised if he uh, survived to the point of being paroled or
Yep.
getting out on probation.
We don't want that parole thing coming up. Okay, and Ann, Mr. Steve, any idea how quick KK?
That's just one.
Oh, I've already done that. Well, look at there. All right, and from Sean, he wants to come to Georgia and have some Waffle House.
Absolutely. Um, just head through whenever you're coming down. If you need to go to, if you're ever heading down to Florida, absolutely let me know.
Holler at us.
Holler at us. I haven't heard back from my Pennsylvania um, crime or the DNA lab, and as soon as I don't anticipate I'll have to go back up there. I'll just get the report. But it was a pleasure seeing you last time.
All right, and Lee or Leah, can they check his IP history? Would that show a different phone being used?
You would think that they would have obtained all those records from the phone company prior to the search warrant. And did they know that there was a missing phone? And was that part of their strategy? Who knows? I mean, you never know when you're dealing with law enforcement because in our cases, when we have everything on, and certain decisions have to be made and certain strategies followed. Just like when you listen to Doug Carter during some of the news briefings and some of the ways that he phrased some of those words and news releases, and who was he addressing, and what strategies, and when they changed strategies, just like with that news briefing with Carter, that you never saw this coming, that we're going to change gears. And as far as for the Delphi case, what did that mean, and what was that strategy? But yes, things are missed in these investigations. Law enforcement, they're human, and sadly, a lot of times through those missed clues and missed opportunities to gather evidence, um, uh, crimes go unsolved, and offenders go unarrested, sometimes for years and sometimes forever. Uh, Luckily and gratefully, we have two monsters off the street that came out of this Delphi investigation. We got Richard Allen off the street. We have this individual, and all the tentacles of people that interacted with him that law enforcement can prove uh, have been taken off the streets. And for that, we have to be grateful.
All right. And we've got an invitation.
About 5 or 6 weeks, I won't be far from there.
Well, look at there. All right. All right. Let's see here. And from SP74, anyone in Indiana know which facilities do DOC
Department of Corrections
intake?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, I don't know which one he will go. I'd find it interesting if he went down to the same one that had Richard Allen. I'd find that extremely interesting.
That could be bad buddies. WL22. Did I say that out loud? No mention of river search in KK case. Will we ever get answers to that?
Man, that is a great question. And was this part of his fantasy and his lies and trying to work a deal? And I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get answers to that. And because I've spoke to some people that were absolutely surprised that nothing's ever came from that. And I'm surprised that nothing ever came from that. But that is a really great question.
So Sean knows we're moving?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are you living in Florida? No, we're not. We are in the early stages of moving and deciding to move. The decision to move's already been made, but we still got a lot of things. So
I didn't know you had shared.
Chris.
Lots of things happen at Morning Watch, doesn't it?
No, that happened on Chris's show.
Chris.
I had talked to Chris prior to the show and told him that we were in the deciding in the process.
Gosh.
And so Chris mentioned it to his show, and then I deny everything.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And do you think Kline will do interviews on Delphi now that he's been sentenced?
Oh, he'll do anything to get money for a commissary and attention. That's what he's done constantly, and he'll use this opportunity that of trying to communicate with these women. He's not going to change his ways. He is a predator, and he will always be a predator. And these individuals that interact with him, for whatever reasons, he's has one purpose, and that's to take advantage of them. Turn on the med. 299 super sticker. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right.
We appreciate everyone's support, and it means a lot to us. Absolutely.
And Sean says, plead the fifth, Steve, even though you won't win with Mrs. Steve. There you go. See there?
Admit nothing, deny everything, make counter allegations.
And Jennifer Rochelle is going with us to Florida.
Oh, excellent.
Come on. All right.
We don't even know what part of Florida yet. Where the wind blows, $3 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Is it working?
Yeah, I think so.
Flip it on one more time. Let's see.
I hadn't been looking at it.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does. Okay. All right. And let's see here. Molly, Mrs. Steve will be coming live from the beach. Well, with the camera facing the ocean, not me. So there you go.
One of the questions that we've been asking in Florida is, do you have fiber? For the fact that our current internet access is not anything anyone would envy.
True. And Copper Horse, this is a good one. Mrs. Steve, what happens on Morning Watch stays on Morning Watch. That's what I'm figuring out. Uh-huh. That's it. I got it. You're absolutely right. I see that now.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
All right. And Real Pocahontas, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
And Wanda,
What?
did you tell Mrs. Steve what Ruckus said about you?
Tell them what I said about what Ruckus.
Oh, that you're the diva?
Yes.
And
National treasure.
National treasure.
Now, I want everyone to realize now Sleuth Intuition is the one that said that he made reference to me as being a diva, and which absolutely cracked me up. This was during our Morning Watch show. And but that's coming from a man that I was having to carry his backpack because he was unable to pick it up. And I'm the diva, and he couldn't even pick up his backpack. So I think it's self-explanatory of who was trying to assist those that weren't able to provide for themselves.
Okay, so I got a note says we have perfect internet, East Coast, Sebastian area. Check it out.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we want good internet service.
Got to. All right. All right. And Mindy says that I'm packed too. When are we leaving? Well, honey, I got lots to pack. Okay.
Yes.
Lots. All right. And I got to know. Check Sebastian Inlet.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Remember that. Okay.
I'll write it down.
Okay. Thank you so much. And let's see. All right. Multitasking.
Yes, Mrs. Steve is always multitasking.
Always. Let's see here. Molly, methinks Ruckus death protest too much.
I'm telling you, for anyone that tears up as much as he tears up.
Whoa, he tears up more than you?
Thanks.
Dang, that's impressive. That's impressive. All right, you're done.
All right, guys. We appreciate everybody being here. Let's see, what we want to put it on. Okay.
You gonna leave that P word in there?
Yeah, I guess we need to go with.
Leave it there. There you go.
I want to put it on that one.
Yep.
That's
right.
the minimum. But we thank everyone for being here. Appreciate everybody's support. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it, and absolutely, we appreciate anything and everything that everyone has done for us. And y'all stay safe out there, and we'll see y'all soon.
Love y'all. Thank you, mods.